Hello, welcome everyone. We will just wait 1 or 2 minutes to be completed, then we will start to our webinar. The session will be conducted in English. The whole process will be in English. And I hope you don't have any problem to follow it. I think we can start. Welcome everyone again. Today we are gathered for the first session of our webinar series, organized as a preparation for the International Women and Justice Summit under the theme of Artificial Intelligence and Women. The summit aims to deeply explore the interaction between women's rights and technology, specifically artificial intelligence from an interdisciplinary perspective. And the International Women and Justice Summit is held every 2 years with different themes in collaboration with the Ministry of Family and Social Services of Turkey. Since 2014, the summit has been organized in November to include the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women on November 25th. The goal of the summit is to develop global approaches to the issues concerning women, families, and society, and to propose solutions to the identified problems. We organized this, and the past summit themes have included justice, women and peace processes, family empowerment, being human in the digital age, cultural codes, and women. And at this year's summit, our goal is to explore AI technology development and implementation processes with a special emphasis on fostering inclusivity, enhancing women's rights, and promoting sustainability. And to enrich our summit content to gain a deeper understanding of the theme, we are organizing this webinar series. And from May through the end of September, we will host sessions each month featuring esteemed speakers as Enis, Doko, and from various fields related to artificial intelligence and women. And each webinar will consist of 40-minute presentation followed by 20-minute discussion session. And today we are excited to embark on this journey with the first session of our series. And our first speaker is Associate Professor Dr. Enis Doko. And I would like to introduce him. Our distinguished speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Doko, is the head of the Philosophy Department at Ibn Haldun University in Istanbul, and he completed his undergraduate studies in physics and philosophy at Middle East Technical University. He earned his PhD in theoretical physics at Koç University. And his research interests include the philosophy of science, philosophy of religion, analytic metaphysics, and philosophy of mathematics. In his presentation, Can AI Fall in Love?, he will discuss the concept of artificial intelligence, its types, and related important questions as follows. First, he will define what is AI and explain the differences between strong and weak AI, general and specialized AI. And next, he will discuss whether AI can have consciousness and the potential for it to have emotions or subjectivities. Finally, he will assess whether AI is neutral and how biased data sets and algorithms can affect this neutrality. Enis Doko is highly knowledgeable and has conducted researches in this field, and he approached the topic holistically and discusses the philosophy of the subject. Believing that love is at the core of everything, it makes this topic particularly important and interesting for all of us, of course. Following Dr. Doku's presentation, we will move on to Q&A session. So please prepare your questions during the session and submit via the Q&A section. And at the end, I will direct the questions to our speaker for his answers. Now I leave the floor after a long speech to Dr. Enis Doko. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nurbanu. I also thank KADEM for inviting me for this talk. and also for you to joining us in this discussion. So, well, the question is, can artificial intelligence fall in love? Of course, this question will be generalized. I will explain why I mean by love. What does it mean for artificial intelligence to fall in love, and why this is important. So first, let's very fast define what is artificial intelligence. Well, basically, actually, we can talk about three different kinds of artificial intelligence. And in here, you see two definitions taken from dictionary, and there's actually a third one, which you cannot see in here because you don't see it usually in the dictionaries. So basically, it's a machine or computer program, you can see here, a branch of computer science dealing with simulation of intelligent behavior in computers. So it can be a computer program which simulates intelligent behavior. Somehow it shows intelligence. Or capacity of machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. Or you may have a machine like a robot which imitates intelligent human behavior. So this definition emphasizes that you want to create either software or some machine which imitates, this is important, it imitates or simulates intelligent human behavior. Of course, the definition need not rest on humans. You can just talk about intelligent behavior in general, like in the first definition here, you can say simulation of intelligent behavior in computers. It doesn't mention humans. So you may not care at all about humans and just try to create some intelligent machine or program, or you can just concentrate on humans, try to understand how they think, and create a machine or program which thinks like humans. I said there are actually three different versions of AI. One of them is already in our life. That's what we call soft AI. There's also wet and hard AI. So I will just mention them, but mostly this talk will be about soft AI. So what is wet AI? It's a biological entity which has intelligence, which is created by humans. So nowadays, although we made important progress in genetics and we can actually change organisms, we can create some artificial organisms, we don't really search to create a more intelligent or intelligent animals. Although in experiments, people have been using human neurons to create more intelligent mice, for example. So this would be a wet AI. It would be an animal which is intelligent, created by humans. We don't speak about them much because we don't have them yet, but it's always a possibility we may have in future wet artificial intelligence, animals created by humans, which are perhaps more intelligent in some respect than humans. I'm not going to talk about them. Second, you can have hard AI. Hard AI are robots. These are machines which have hands, have body, and move around, and they are also intelligent, or they show some intelligence. Already we have them, some of them in our home. You know, the robotic machines which clean our room. These robot cleaners, vacuum cleaners. They are an example of robotic or hard artificial intelligence. They are clever. They can move around the house without your help, and they can clean your house. Again, I'm not going to spend much time on robots, but that's also something in future we will be interested. A third type of AI is soft AI. That's actually a program which runs either in computer or in your mobile phone, which is intelligent. It shows intelligent behavior. It can do calculations for you. It can play chess. It can answer your questions. It can write essays for you, check the grammar of written piece. All these require intelligence. And these programs, they show some intelligent behavior. Okay, so we will be mostly today talking about soft AI. However, we should know that there are possibilities of hard AI, intelligent robots, or intelligent animals, which perhaps maybe more intelligent than humans. Okay, so I said I will be talking about mostly soft AI. Of course, what I will say also will be valid for hard AI, for robots as well. There are three other important distinctions when it comes to AI, which is important for us. If we are to talk about, so my talk will not be directly initially related to the gender issues, but if you are interested in gender justice and this kind of issues, first you need to understand what AI is and where the problem could be. To understand that, you need to get to know different types of AI. First division is what we call narrow AI and general AI. Narrow AI is artificial intelligence which is programmed to do a single task. Deep Blue is a narrow AI. It's a chess playing program. Kasparov, so he can win any good chess player. But however, this machine can only play chess. It cannot do mathematical calculations. It cannot find a way from one place to another. It cannot speak with you. So it can do just a single task. This is what we call narrow AI. On the other hand, we have general AI. General AI is an AI which can do more than one task. Ideally, it should do everything which is on its power. It should be like human mind, like human brain. We are multitasking beings. We can cook food, we can recognize people, we can write essays, we can do mathematical calculations, we can chat with our friends, we can do many things with our brain. We can solve very complicated problems easily. We are multitasking beings. So general AI would be an artificial intelligence which would solve more than one problem. It will be actually a universal kind of intelligence, like human mind, really. Nowadays, we are coming close to create a general AI, but it's not done yet. So all the AIs which you know are narrow AI. Of course, you may have some AIs which can do multiple tasks. However, they are not general AI. They cannot solve more than one possible problem. Okay, so this is the first distinction. How many tasks can the program solve? A second distinction, which usually nowadays just philosophers care about, but which would be important in the future, is the distinction between weak AI and strong AI. And that's actually the question we're asking today. Can artificial intelligence fall in love? So weak AI is an artificial intelligence, perhaps a general AI, which can do multiple tasks. However, it is blind. That is, it doesn't have subjective mental states. I will define what these are, what subjective mental states are. We will talk about them. But basically, weak AI is a machine which is like zombie. It doesn't have any internal states. It doesn't feel pain. It doesn't fall in love. It doesn't experience hunger. It doesn't have internal states. It doesn't feel anything. And we believe, of course, this can be disputed, but we believe nowadays all the AI which we have, ChatGPT, whatever, they are weak AI. They don't have any emotions. They don't have any mental states whatsoever. More exotic and interesting AI would be strong AI. Strong AI will be an artificial intelligence which has subjective mental states. It can feel pain, it can feel love, it can understand what he is doing, it can have a free will. It would be like exactly like humans in a sense. Of course, their mental states can be different in some respect than humans, but they will have consciousness, a real consciousness. That's the strong AI. And basically, the question, can AI fall in love, is actually, can there be a strong AI? Can we have a machine or computer program which really has feelings? Why this is important, and especially about the gender issues, I will come to that shortly. And there is a third way you can basically distinguish AI, And that is, you may have good old-fashioned AI or rule-based, logic-based AI. That's one type of AI, which used to be very popular in the past. That's why it's called good old-fashioned AI. Still, we use it. It's not something which we don't have, but it is getting rare and rare. Second type is machine learning, which is very popular. ChatGPT, Google Translate, and many applications which we use, they use machine learning. While good old-fashioned AI is what usually we do when we program in our computer, when we write some programs which don't use any data, rather use rules. So in good old-fashioned AI, you give all the rules to the computer program. And it follows these rules and executes them and comes to a conclusion. For example, Deep Blue, which became the chess champion, which won over all the humans, including the Kasparov, it was a good old-fashioned AI. It was using rules. It was following rules, and by following rules, it was creating outcomes. Our calculators, which we use at home, they are also clever. They solve mathematical problems. They are AI in a sense. Calculator is an AI. It does something which is intelligent. It makes mathematical calculations, arguably better than humans. In one sense, they may be more intelligent than some humans with respect to mathematics. But it follows rules. It's an algorithmic, it has rules and it follows them. That's why this good old-fashioned AI is sometimes called rule-based AI. It is deterministic. It always gives the same answer for the same question. And it is transparent. You know the rules. You know what it is doing. We use it, for example, when we grade. If you have a lot of students, rather than giving them one by one the grades, you may write a code to your Excel. You may say, if the grade is higher than 90, give A. If it's between 90 and 85, give A minus. And then automatically Excel gives the grades, right? So this is really an artificial intelligence. It solves a problem for you which requires intelligence, recognizing the numbers and giving corresponding grade. It's an example of good old-fashioned AI. You give the rules and AI follows these rules. However, we have even arguably better or more useful kind of AI today, what we call machine learning. Machine learning involves systems that learn from data. Rather than giving the rules, you give them data. They identify certain patterns in the data and they make decisions without much human intervention. You don't really give the rules. If you provide more data, of course, it gives better results. ChatGPT is such an example. It analyzes a lot of text and comes to realize how human language works, how certain questions are answered. We don't really code them the answers. It's not written. Each response to our questions is not really written in the program. They are not rules which the program follows. It follows the patterns which it has identified from the data. So that's why we call it a data-driven AI. It's adaptive. It means it changes as you provide more data, the executions may change. It's not fixed. It's not something, it learns. That's why we say machine learning. It's called change with time, with new data. It's adaptive, and it is not deterministic, but probabilistic. Same questions may get different answers. And that's actually what happens even in ChatGPT, right? Sometimes you ask the same question, you get different answers. And lastly, but more importantly, when it comes about justice issues and gender issue, is that the machine learning systems are opaque, which means we don't know why they give this answer. We don't know. It cannot explain us. For example, we ask them certain question and they give us an answer. Why it gave this answer? We don't really know. For example, there are some machine learning systems which can diagnose you whether you have cancer or not. You give the picture and AI says this is probably cancer or not. If you ask him why this is cancer, it will not be able to answer you because it doesn't follow any rules. It looks at the data, finds the patterns. These patterns are stored as a numbers, as a coefficients, and you cannot really translate them to something which you can read, which you can understand. So that's why they are opaque. They give you an answer, but if you ask them why, they will not be able to answer. Okay, so we'll return back, but we have two kinds of AIs, and especially machine learning is very exciting because you have now a machine or program which learns. It takes the data, it learns, and it gives some answers which may be surprising to humans as well. And it can outcompete the humans. In good old-fashioned AI, you need to give the rules. So it's not really, it can only outcompete humans by speed. So why Deep Blue wins over Kasparov? Because Deep Blue can calculate millions of positions in a second, while Kasparov cannot do that. However, good old-fashioned AI is simply following the rules which are given. In machine learning systems, the issue is different. You don't give the rules, so you may not even know the answer yourself. You just give them data. The machine system finds the answer and follows the rules. Even in the place where humans may fail, they can outperform us. Not because of their speed, but because they have analyzed the data. Here is an example. I said diagnosis. It has been shown that artificial intelligence is much better in diagnosing cancer, for example, from the data. Humans can analyze, let's say, in their lifetime, maybe 10,000 patients. But AI can study millions of rules, and essentially from these millions rules, it can find the tweetable, it can find the patterns and use them in the calculation. Okay, so we made the distinctions, and basically the distinctions we discussed. I want to discuss initially the strong versus weak AI case. I said that weak AI is an artificial intelligence which doesn't have a mental state, while strong AI is machine or program which can have a mental state. So what's mental states? What kind of mental states we can have? Of course, there are more than one kinds of mental states. Three of them are very interesting. Number one is what we call qualia. So qualia is subjective experience. It's a subjective conscious experience. It's sensation, for example, of pain. When you sense pain, it's an example of qualia. Or when you taste some food, it's an example of qualia. I'm sorry, just 1 minute, then I will come back. Sorry, the duck problem. So qualia is a subjective conscious experiences. When you perceive pain, you don't just take your hand. Initially, you can take your hand. You can have just a response, automatic response. But you also feel something inside your mind, in your consciousness. It's like a theater, and you feel the pain itself. This is an example of qualia. Or when you taste coffee, you take coffee and you take the taste of the coffee. It's an example of qualia, the feeling which forms in your mouth, which, by the way, maybe can change from person to person. Some people like the coffee, others doesn't. And that's a subjective feeling you have. Color is an example of subjective experience. When we look at some, let's say, some object, it may be, we can say it's a red, and redness appear in our mind. And of course, the question which was of the talk, can AI fall in love? Well, love is an example of qualia, the feeling we feel inside our body when we fall in love in our mind. That's an example of qualia. Qualia is personal, and we cannot really share it with other people. We think that we have the same experience, but who knows, right? We can just kind of describe the feelings, but we cannot really give the clear picture. If I ask you, describe me the color red, you can only just point some red objects and say it's like this, but you cannot really describe what does it look like, really. Perhaps we see different colors, and it wouldn't be surprising. Like some people taste coffee and they say it's great. Some people say the coffee is bad. Perhaps it's same with colors. What you see as a red is not what I really see as a red. When we fall in love, perhaps we don't have the same feelings. Yes, they may be exciting, but what you feel may be different from what I feel. It's something which we cannot share. Now, why qualia is important? We believe that, especially many people, many ethicists, believe that we are responsible towards beings which have qualia. For example, I am responsible towards dogs or cats. If I have a cat at home, if I kill the cat or if I torture it, you will say that I'm really a bad person. On the other hand, if I torture my mobile phone, you will not really say that I'm a bad person. You may say he's crazy, he's really breaking down the phone. It's very expensive, he's a crazy guy, but you will not really say that he's an immoral guy. But if I torture a cat, you will say I'm an immoral person. Why? Because we believe that cat has a sensation of pain. It can feel the pain. That's why killing the cat is wrong. While you don't believe that mobile phones can really feel the pain, and therefore, if I break the mobile phone, you will not really think that I'm really breaking some moral rule. You will not think that I have responsibility towards the mobile phone. Of course, if machines can develop qualia, we will have moral responsibility towards them. I'm not going to discuss them much today, but if really we have some kind of machines which have feelings, then similar to the cats, I will have moral responsibility towards these machines. I cannot really just tear them apart, or I cannot really turn them off without having some good reason. So I will return back to this issue maybe a little bit, but that's not the real concern. However, there is one respect which is qualia is important from gender perspective. Some philosophers and some psychologists in feminist literature, they believe that males and females have different morality. We have different perception of the moral issues. If I remember correctly, Gilligan was the defender of this. She did an experiment in which she demonstrated that females and males have different kinds of ethics. Males, they follow certain rules, which is more reason-based, while females, their ethics is mostly based on compassion and empathy. And compassion and empathy are states of qualia. A being which doesn't have qualia, which doesn't have a subjective mental state, cannot do empathy, cannot have compassion. So if morality really, especially female morality, if I'm not expert on this area of feminism, but if this theory is true, that means automatically that artificial intelligence Weak AI, which is currently used, is automatically following male morality. If it follows any moral code at all, it will follow rules or certain rational reasons. It cannot have a compassion, it cannot have empathy, because these are mental states, subjective mental states, which you cannot find in weak AI. So this is some point which may be interesting for feminist discussions about gender ethics. If you believe that there are different ethical rules or ethical perception in females and males, then actually AI is more like a male person in its perception. It lacks compassion and empathy, and as such is more like a cold male, which analyzes the cases. Second example of subjective mental states is intentionality. Intentionality is the power of the mind to be about something, to represent something. It's basically what we call understanding. If some machine doesn't have intentionality, it cannot really understand anything. So our minds, I can, for example, think about my mother at the moment. When I do this, when I think about my mother, I imagine my mother. Suddenly my mind becomes about my mother. Or when I do some job, when I write an essay, I know what I'm writing. I think about it. I have the picture in my mind. This is an example of intentionality. I have intentions. However, weak AI will not have an intention. It doesn't really understand what it is doing. It's just answering some questions, doing some job. But if you ask him, what are you doing? It will not be able to answer. It may mimic like it is understanding, but it's not really understanding. Third, and in one respect also another important mental state, which is lacking in weak AI, is free will. Free will usually is defined as the ability to choose between different possible courses of action. It's up to you to make the choice. Nothing external is pushing you to that choice. Well, we believe that free will is important because many things which we do are related with it. We believe that you are responsible only if you are free. Your actions are to be taken guilty or they are praiseworthy if you are free. We even believe that love or friendship makes sense if you are free. If you really choose me freely as your friend, I would I will be your real friend. If it's up to you, if it's not forced to you by something. So in this sense, if AI doesn't have a free will, you cannot really hold responsible any program about the actions it is doing. And nowadays, of course, we don't say it's due to this program. The mistake is due to this program. We don't really believe that AI has a free will. It doesn't actually. It's a deterministic machine nowadays. So it's lacking free will. But if someday AI can get a free will, then it will be responsible for its own actions. And it's also a mental state. Only strong AI can have a free will. Okay, good. So we saw some important mental states and we know important distinctions about AI. The next question, which is interesting to discuss, and I'm looking at my time, I have like around 10 minutes, is what kind of systems can have mental states or can have a mind? Well, there are different philosophical positions. First of all, there is dualism. Dualism is the belief that only souls, ruh, only souls can have a mental state. And souls, by souls, I mean immaterial souls. It's something which is non-material. We have spirit inside our body, which is immaterial and controlling our body, and really our mind is in the spirit. Dualists will believe that machines cannot have a mind, cannot fall in love, cannot have a free will because machines don't have soul. This is an old position nowadays. Not much people are dualist because neurobiology seems to suggest that certain affecting the brain affects the human behavior, affects the consciousness. So many people believe that it's soul is not really something immaterial. This view has been associated in Islamic tradition with Sufis and Messiahist philosophers. However, there were many Muslims who are not dualists. The second view is panpsychism. That's the opposite of dualism. In dualism, you say just souls can have a mental state, matter cannot have a mental state. But in this case, in panpsychism, you say everything which is material has a soul. Sorry, has a consciousness, not soul. Everything has a consciousness. Everything has a mental state. Everything understands and perceives the environment. My mobile phone, my t-shirt, everything has mental states. Panpsychism has defenders nowadays, not again very popular, and it is associated with Sufism in Islamic tradition. Sufis, they believe that everything in the universe has a mental state, because in the Quran it's mentioned that every object in the universe talks with God, prays to God, and there are mentions of my hands speaking or perceiving things, my body parts speaking, which means they have some form of consciousness. So if you take literally these Quranic verses, then panpsychism is your way. But this is interesting, because if panpsychism is true, all the artificial machines we create, they have some consciousness. And if you create very complicated AI, it will not only be just intelligent, it will have a mental states. So strong AI is after all possible. And in fact, even my mobile phone has some mental states. A third position is emergence of property dualism. Basically, it is the claim that mental states emerge out of matter, but out of very complicated matter. In other words, mental states are special things, they are supernatural, but they come out of matter. We are not spirit and body, but we are spirited bodies. Our minds produce, our brain, in very complicated cases, produce mental states. A fourth position is biologism. It believes that just biology can produce mental states. Basically, our brain produces the mental states. If biologism is true, then of course, AI cannot be possible. Strong AI is not possible. AI cannot fall in love because programs or machines, they are not biological entities. Then we have functionalism. Functionalism is the claim that mental states are like programs. Well, actually, they say brain is like a computer. It makes a computation. It basically, it follows certain functions, and mental states as such are not, can be created in different environments. Think about like this. When I say you pen, you don't define pen with material. You define it with function. Pen is something which is writing, right? You can have a pen made out of wood. You can have a pen made out of plastic. Even you can have supernatural pen, right? A spirited pen. It's a supernatural, but it writes. Maybe genies, they have the ability to write. So they will be a supernatural pen. You define pen with writing, not with the material. Functionalists say that mind similarly should be defined by function. Mind can appear in the brain, it can appear in the machines, but it can also appear in soul, everything. In principle, it can appear everywhere. If functionalism is true, in principle, you can create machines which have mental states. I'm not going to discuss the arguments for and against. Maybe we can discuss them in the remaining, in the discussion sessions, which one is more reasonable or not. But I want to mention part of my research. So I assume most of you are Muslims. So you may ask, well, given I'm a Muslim, should I believe that machines can fall in love? In other words, should I believe that strong AI is possible. Well, I have a detailed paper you can see here. I'm not going to summarize it. I will just give the basic point of the paper. My belief is that Muslims should expect that strong AI is possible because Islamic theism implies that the mind can appear in different substances. We humans are different than the substance of God. Even if you believe that we have a soul, or even if you believe that we are just body, still we have a mind. And we believe that God also have mind. Of course, God's mind is different than human mind, but mind can appear in supernatural entities and it can appear in natural entities, which means mind is multiply realizable. And if this is true, then functionalism is true. And if functionalism is true, then strong AI is possible. After all, more simply, we can say God has the power to give mental states to machines. So, in principle, it is possible for machines to have mental states. Okay, in the last remaining 4 minutes, I will ask one question which is really relevant for what we are doing. Is AI objective? So we already saw one particular issue. That's if you believe that empathy is the source of morality and compassion, like some feminist ethicists believe, like Gilligan, then you would say that machines are following the male morality. Another important problem, and probably this would be what you will discuss in the summit and what we'll discuss in the coming programs, is that AI is not really objective. So initially, you may say this is a machine program. So after all, it doesn't really, if it doesn't have a mental state especially, it is free to do whatever. So it's free from the biases you may initially think. Well, the issue is no, it's pretty biased. The AI is biased, unfortunately. And there are several possible sources of bias. The most important one, I will just discuss machine learning because that's what is most common, and as we saw, it's opaque. You cannot really inspect the results, how they came to be. So you cannot really know whether it is biased or not because you don't see the rules. If you give, so machine learning uses data. You give them a data which trains the machine. If the data is biased, and there may be different sources of bias, it can prefer the data may be taken from some gender or from some race. If the data is biased, then this AI will be biased as well. Again, the way you collect the data can introduce the biases. You may go and collect data from Turkey or from some other country. And if there is some bias in the data in that country, which obviously usually there is, then the data will be biased. Nowadays, the greatest problem we face in Turkey or in Middle Eastern countries is that current data used by AI, like ChatGPT, is mostly coming from Anglo-Saxon regions. It's coming mostly from English-speaking world. So it's biased towards English. That's why, for example, when you ask something to ChatGPT, it gives point by point, right? It's strange. In Turkey, we don't usually write point by point, but it's very common in West. But the way it answers is actually mimicking the Western style of answering the questions. So it basically can introduce bias. And let me give you just some examples, some concrete examples, so that we can see how bias can be introduced to machine learning. For example, Amazon, when they initially thought that they should recruit people, they should give jobs to people using AI. It would be, they thought, more just because AI cannot be bribed, cannot be influenced by emotions. So simply AI is the best person to give jobs. Of course, AI, if it's machine learning system, if you don't give the rules, and certainly CVs are very complicated. So you use data, and Amazon gave the data of their acceptances in previous 10 years period. So AI analyzed the data and found patterns and basically created an algorithm to accept people, to give them jobs. Well, guess what? Most of the candidates which applied to Amazon in the past, which were accepted, were males. As such, Amazon's AI started to prefer males. If in your CV it was written that you are a woman, like you are a women's chess club captain, or you are, if your name is clearly a female name, you would not get the job. And people were not initially aware of it because you cannot really inspect. Once usually males got accepted, people realized that Amazon's recruiting tool is gendered biased. It prefers males over females. Another example, again, which has a gender bias is Google Translate. If you use it to translate things from Turkish to English, and you know Turkish language is not a gendered language. We don't use he or she. Then we say o, it doesn't have any gender. Well, Google Translate follows the stereotypes. If you say o doktordur in Turkish, it will translate as he is a doctor. They started to correct this, by the way, but he will give male, because if it's doctor, of course it should be male, right? It's a male job. If you say o hemşiredir, she's a nurse. Of course, if it's hemşire, it must be a female. So it was gender biased. Again, this is not something done on purpose. Google Translate uses texts, and in the text, if you usually say that males are doctors, Google Translate will think that there is such a reality. So it will follow the bias in the society. In the text, Google Translate is not in itself biased. It learns from the data. Data is biased, Google Translate becomes sexist. Another example is Apple Card. So Apple Card was used to give credit to people. It was a credit card, Apple's credit card, managed by Goldman Sachs. So it would give lower credit to females, to women compared to men, with the same financial profiles. Why? Because in the past, mostly males got credits, and actually mostly males applied for the credits in the past. Using this data, somehow Apple thought that it's better to be male if you are going to get a credit card. Sorry, credit money from the bank. It was not just looking in the financial profiles infos, it was looking also to the gender, because it analyzes the data and it doesn't follow any rules. If there is a pattern about genders in the data, if data is again biased, Apple Card is biased. LinkedIn's job recommendation algorithm, which was very common in suggesting jobs, it will suggest higher paying jobs more to men than to women. Sexist algorithm in LinkedIn. Why? Again, it was not done on purpose. It was looking at the historical data, and in the past, males got more money for the same job. Of course, it's unfair, it's biased, but machine cannot see this. It doesn't have any moral compass. If you go biased data, it will work, it will create a biased program. So conclusion is AI is not objective. It's as objective in machine learning as its algorithm is, as its data is. And unfortunately, most of the data today, which is available in internet or which is provided to the AI systems, is gender biased. Not just gender biased, of course, it's racist. It's mostly white male dominated. It's not just gender, but for us, since we are mostly interested about gender issues, it has a gender bias. So AI is not objective. So thank you for now. If you have any question, we can extend the discussion. I used 5 minutes more time.
Thank you, Dr. Doko. You enlightened us so much with your presentation, and you covered many important points that made us think and spark discussions as you address the topic. And we appreciate your insights. And we have a couple of questions at Q&A section, but I would like to ask all the participants, if you have any specific question that you want to explain by yourself, please raise your hand or a finger, and I will allow you to ask your question directly to our guest. But while waiting for your questions, I want to address the first question that come to our Q&A section. And you talked about strong and weak AI, and the question is about, does robot Sophia have strong AI, or is she really intelligent? And we learned from your presentation that we don't have a strong AI right now,
Yes.
but we can use the second part. Is she really intelligent? What is your opinion about it?
Well, it's very limited. The intelligence of AI is of Sophia is very limited. It shows another problem. We humans could easily fall in. We usually express emotions with facial expressions. If you cannot create machine which mimics the facial expressions perfectly, many people will think that the machine in front of them has really emotions. In fact, it can trick our brain and we can fall in love with that robot. We can fall in love, but robot, it's very stupid robot actually. It just creates a good mimics, but it's not very intelligent really. So it has a answering algorithm, but a weak AI, and it's not really intelligent as ChatGPT. ChatGPT is more intelligent, but it can fool us more because we humans, we usually perceive the emotions in other beings through mimics in our face. And if you can create a robot which plays with these mimics, you can usually think and fall into a prey that thinking that it has a feelings. Ex Machina was a movie in which this really is shown. Probably the machine is the weak AI, but because it has really believable emotions, person really falls and thinks that the machine has emotions. If you haven't watched it, I recommend watching the Ex Machine.
And thank you for your answer. And we have another question in Turkish. We talked about love, and you said that AI can fall in love. The question, I will read the Turkish part of the question, and I will translate it to English. Yapay zekanın Leyla'dan geçme faslı olur mu? Olursa nasıl olur? Do you think that AI would be able to transcend love, and what if it does?
Well, personally, my opinion at the moment is we don't know. The thing which is worrying is that we don't even have a test to really know whether a machine has a mental state or not. In other people, even in other people, we don't really know whether they have emotions or not. We judge from their facial expressions. And since their brain is like our brain, we believe that they almost feel the same emotions. However, in case of machines, they don't have the brain like us. And if you program them, they can easily imitate the emotions. So I don't really think that even we know how to answer this question at the moment. It's something which is going on the search to find a test. Traditionally, people have thought that there's a Turing test. If you can have a machine which imitates the humans perfectly, such that you can distinguish it from humans, then it has it's a really strong AI. That was the claim, but no one really believes in that now. We believe that we should have a much better test to understand whether that machine has feelings or not. So we don't really know at the moment.
Thank you. And I think we, most of us here, are wondering about strong AI. And all when we listen to you, we start thinking, what if we start using strong AI, and what can change in our lives?
Well, first of all, there will be a pro AI movement. So many people will believe that they have feelings and they have. So we should protect them. There will be a slave movement. Some people will say we should give freedom to the robots. We should not enslave them. So there will be a freedom robot movements. There will be people who think that we should care about robots. We should not really treat them like slaves. So it would be interesting in that respect. But most importantly, of course, our society will change greatly. So first of all, there will be a danger of, since they will develop a free will, so they will have a mental state, they will try to survive. So they will have their own agenda. Assuming that they are more clever than humans, then they may turn against us. So some people talk about scenarios like Kurzweil or Elon Musk, in which there will be a singularity, a point at which machines will be more intelligent than us, and eventually they will suppress us, and in the end, they will even kill us. They will destroy humanity. So it will be like Matrix. They will take over the earth. Either they will use us or they will just get rid of us. However, I think the issue will be more complicated. If we can prove that machines can have a mental state, many people will try to merge with machines. We'll try to upload our consciousness to the robots. We will start to change our body parts with robotic body parts, cybernetics. Already, actually, we are doing it. But except brain, you can change your hand, you can put some artificial organ, but we don't believe at the moment that you can have an artificial brain. However, if you can create a strong AI, a robot, which have a consciousness and mental states, it means that you can maybe transfer your consciousness to that machine. So we will have a future in that case in which we have partly human and partly robot. It will be strange and interesting. And again, if in that case, we can easily say that AI can fall in love. So there will be people who will have relationships maybe with AI, with robots. They will marry with robots, with programs. So it would be very strange future. So there will be many things which change. But fortunately, I believe we are far from that point. I don't believe that, like Ray Kurzweil believes that it will happen in 2045. So we have 20 years till singularity. But I'm highly skeptical. I think the real problem we should be worried at the moment is that we start to rely so much to AI, which will make us stupid. If you use calculator and if you don't learn multiplication, you will fall back in mathematics. If you use ChatGPT to write your essays, you will not learn how to write. I believe the greatest danger at the moment is not machines becoming very clever, but humans becoming very stupid due to using so much AI.
Definitely. Right. So much. Right. Thank you. And we have another question. Thank you for your question, Zehra Kafkaslı. Her question is, some AI projects has been shut down because it's built a language that humans don't know. What is the real danger of conducting that kind of project?
Yes, this is true. There has been cases in some AI projects, chatbots or some agents can collaborate or can somehow talk with each other. So what's the worry? Of course, the worry is loss of control and understandability. If machines can talk with each other and share data and change themselves, alter their own behavior, we will not be able to predict what they will do. And of course, it may cause some security issues, some safety risks. We may have one goal, but machines in the long run can develop a different goals. So you are creating the machine, for example, to control the temperature of the room, some smart AI. But this AI, with talking with another AI, may take another data and may develop its own agenda, which may be bad for us, which may not be really in our interest of the humans. So it's something really strange and interesting, but it did happen really. So in some cases, AI started to talk with each other, develop their own protocols, and this is opaque to us. We don't really see what they are doing, what kind of information they are sharing, and of course, if you don't know, you are afraid what may happen. Unpredictability at the moment is one of the biggest problems with AI. That's what creates bias also. Machine learning is opaque. You cannot inspect everything. So it's really the problem.
Thank you, Dr. Doko. I think we are all done right now. We don't have any question else. If we have, please raise your hands, dear participants. I think we are enlightened so much from this session, and we will keep going to be enlightened with other experts from AI and women area as well. Thank you again, Dr. Doko, for your presentation tonight. And dear participants, thank you all for your participation as well. And I believe that we had a productive and inspiring session tonight, and I hope you think the same with me. Our next webinar will be on Monday, June 10th, and featuring Dr. Merve Ayyüce Kızrak, an innovative AI expert at the Presidential Digital Transformation Office. And her presentation will be on access to information provided by AI. Please stay tuned and register on our website to stay informed about the next programs. And have a great night and great weekend. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.